You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. Our featured spirit of the week is Doc Porter's Distillery of Charlotte. Every drop of Doc Porter's vodka, gin, and bourbon is made from scratch using locally sourced grains from Marshville and Asheville, North Carolina. Check them out online at docporters.com and at Doc Porter's Distillery and on Instagram at Doc Porters. Brought to you by Key City Spirits, brand ambassadors providing North Carolina distilleries with marketing, design, and social media services. KeyCitySpirits.com. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today is a first on the show as we are going to interview the first son of a previous guest. And he is the MERCATO man, Mr. Chef Owner, Gabriel Barker. And I use that because every time I walk into your restaurant, there is hip-hop blasting. And this past weekend was the Wu-Tang concert. And
Wu-Tang forever!
Wu-Tang? So I just wanted to see if you were there.
No,
And
unfortunately, no.
okay. And like the Method Man, you're like the Mercado Man.
I'll happily take that one.
Yeah, I figured.
He was busy making pizzas, Matt.
Oh.
You know-
Yeah, and you don't like to come to Raleigh also, so.
Well, that's definitely not true. I do.
Wow,
Oh,
controversial.
Yeah. Well, I do like it's the drive.
Right. Oh, well, you could take the train.
When is that happening?
Well, I mean, I know you could take the train from Durham, but I would assume you could take it from Chapel Hill, Carborough as well.
Can we look up dates, times for when the trains come out of Carborough and make it into Raleigh? That'd be good to know. No, just kidding.
I actually talk about this rather often, but my brother gave me, what was it, the Outkast Stankonia album, I think when I was like 10 years old.
Okay.
And it like really pissed my mom off. Because, I was like instantly hooked on it. And ever since then, I have super eclectic music taste. But
Sorry, Miss Barker.
Yeah,
Ooh.
exactly. Yeah. But it was, from there, hip-hop has always been my probably go-to listening.
What are your like top 3, top 5 like albums that you're always going back to?
Oh, wow. That's, I do a lot of streaming, but as far as, Outkast is still up there.
Okay.
Artists, I don't know if I could do album.
Okay.
But Outkast.
But like, yeah, I guess
that's what old people
that's
say.
such an old people say, yeah.
Outkast for sure. Been really listening to a lot of Chance the Rapper the last couple of years.
Okay.
And Anderson .Paak, who just released a new album, has kind of been pretty heavy in the rotation.
I have no idea who that is, Anderson .Paak.
Yeah, he has a song with G-Eazy.
That is Keely, by the way. She is the podcast protege over here. Say hello, Keely.
Hello.
Anyhow, and you might hear Keely like doing facts and checks and telling us when like the trains come in to Raleigh every
Exactly.
now and then. But Gabe, welcome to the studio. Welcome to Raleigh. It's all established. You own and run Pizzeria Mercado, a fantastic, amazing, not just pizzeria, dining establishment. And I'd like you to tell us what you actually think it is at some point. Obviously, it's a pizzeria. It's in the name. But it's a little bit more. Trying to figure out, we know of you. We've talked to your father. We'll get into that too. But how do you perceive Pizzeria Mercado?
I kind of look at the pizza aspect of what we do as, the coal that is driving the engine of the train. Mm-hmm. It's the foundation. It's what I walked in the doors feeling really confident in, and having never had an opportunity to, hey, go create a menu. You know what I mean? That was like, okay, I got a good foundation. It's really solid Neapolitan-inspired pizza with more of a New York-style cook. And from there, the building was not great aesthetically. It wasn't pretty. It's a brick
little brick
box.
box,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But when my dad said, hey, it's right across from the market, that spurred all sorts of inspiration, 5 years in California, living in San Francisco, really taught me about that farm-to-table thing, which I think is sort of ubiquitous at this point.
Sure.
And I said, man, the Carborough market, even as I could remember it, even before I was really cooking for myself, was always super vibrant, and it really does spur and inspire the way that the menu moves, one week to the next, season to season, which we actually have here in North Carolina, unlike California, right? And so the vegetables are huge for me. I love the fact that so many of our people are coming, I didn't even like Brussels sprouts before I ate that salad, or whatever ingredient we might choose to focus on. And it also helps counterbalance my pizza consumption, trying to keep that girlish figure.
Get the greens in there, the roughage.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It is a funny thing. I think about it back in, and obviously Matt and I both worked in restaurants in Los Angeles for a while, but we did seasonal menus. We'd change them quarterly, typically, but it's almost like, okay, I'm just going to do new things now, because it wasn't like I'm going to do what's available. I feel like everything was available in California at all times.
Exactly.
So it's like now here you get inspired because, the strawberries are in season, or, getting ready for pawpaw fruit, or, ramps are now here. Whereas in California, you're just kind of like, I guess I'm just going to start doing different things than I didn't do the last time.
And, I don't know about my other restaurant humans, but last year is, the wettest year on record in North Carolina history.
Right.
And so that winter was tough to try and get people to say, like, how much kale and collard greens do people want to eat in a restaurant,
Potatoes. Got some potatoes on your pizza.
Yeah, exactly. But actually you do. But it really is, the more it develops, it's way more than pizza, man. We're doing all of, as much as I can possibly create in-house that somebody isn't doing better than me, an artisanal producer, our cheeses that are coming from Italy, some of the cured meats that I just have an affinity towards. We use a spicy Piedmont Calabrese style sausage that's out of Berkeley, California, that I fell in love with out there, and I just have to have it,
Yeah.
So our octopus dish, for some reason, is like goes crazy. We're doing like 60 to 80 pounds of octopus a week on those busy weeks.
So many things I want to say there that are inappropriate.
You're getting that out of Spain, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice transition there. So pulpo, you putting that? Is that on the pizza, or is that just its own dish?
We do like an antipasti section, which is as the longer the restaurant goes on, I feel like tying me to Italian food is more of my association with the idea that kind of less is more, keeping things a little bit more simple in presentation, not trying to overthink. And we have pretty rustic plating over there. There's not a tweezer in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Not a lot of the same complicated saucing and all that stuff, but
You're not doing what your dad did.
that is for sure.
Yeah. Let's set the stage there. Well, so and I'm sure you've talked about this probably ad nauseum for yourself, but for those of us that are listening that might not know you. So your dad is Ben Barker, who has been on the show, been one of our rare video casts, actually, that we put out in, November of 2017, something around there?
Yeah, we had the delusions of grandeur that people wanted to see our faces.
Yeah.
And we swiftly learned, no, just listen to them.
Just listen.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But we also had, people that other people might want to actually see, because it was Charlie Deal. We had both Sonny and Sophia from the Mofu shop. We had Gabe. And we had
Jordan Salcito from Ramona Wine Coolers, yeah,
up in New York.
But more importantly, so we had your dad on, and we had him because he is a James Beard Best Chef Southeast Award winner, and him and your mom ran I think the correct word would be eponymous Magnolia Grill for 26 years, which, if anybody knows anything about dining in Durham or in the Triangle, they know of Magnolia Grill. It's legendary. Literally. And so that was a pretty fancy restaurant. Big wine list. I never dined there because it was closed before I got there, but I'm pretty sure there were white tablecloths.
It was still a tablecloth restaurant, I think it was more fine dining in the service and the food than the actual space itself, because having worked in there, like you see it during the daytime with the lights on, and you're like, man, it's kind of grungy in here.
Right.
But no, it was a Southern American fine dining restaurant in a time when it first opened that didn't really exist around here. And that whole, like I said, farm to table being ubiquitous now in this current day, he was really going out of his way to do it, and
right.
Making the relationships with the farmers and saying, hey, that snap pea's not perfect enough, or trust me, that man is attention to detail is something that I would love to gain more of from him, because
Oh,
he really crushed it in that respect.
And at that time too, there weren't farmers like there are farmers now. I mean, we had a lot of farmland that was used up for tobacco and for all the potatoes and sweet potatoes and peanuts and all that. We were doing pretty big mass production farming, not like the way we have it today, where you can go to a farmer's market and get a bounty of such delicate, unique little items, and so it becomes easier. So his struggle was even harder to do what he did in that time.
You know, that was one of his, I guess, his 3 key difficulties to that restaurant, at least in the early years, was sourcing. You
Right.
know? And having somebody be in Durham, North Carolina, not Chicago, New York, San Francisco, saying, like, this is the quality of product I want, you know, I won't settle for less, find a way to get it to me.
Yeah. I just to put a bow on that, your dad still buys the wines for Pizzeria Mercado. Excellent wine list, I will say. And dealing with him in my day job, he is famous amongst our warehouse group, which packages the wines to be delivered, to make sure that they come in their original packaging. I was like, this is for Ben Barker, and boom, they know that's like the key word. So yeah, he's famous for attention to detail.
And I think that's something that carries over to me, too. I'm maybe a little more tolerant in certain aspects, but we both care tremendously about what we're doing. And I think that sometimes it comes off as being, you know, a little bit bullish and get easily frustrated. But, you know, if the expectation is the ceiling and you land right below it, then you're going to be better than a lot of people. And I think that's really the goal.
And I think for people that know you and your dad and your family and know what you do, it's appreciation of like, no, they just want it right, and they want it the way they want to, because there's an excellence and attention to detail there, which is absolutely respect worthy.
You know, we just want I want every single person that comes into that restaurant to have like a super rewarding experience. This is as you guys know, in every other restaurant industry, it's a terribly difficult industry. To be successful takes a lot of attention, and so when we can give it our best effort, you know, every single day, which is what we're trying to do, then hopefully that people recognize it, and it makes a difference to them.
I do want to know, though, in the parallel, by the way, success is not only deemed by us, but you've gotten 4 stars by News and Observer. You were named by Eater on nationally and one of the top young guns. Bon Appetit magazine named you in 2016 top 3 pizza in the country, which is huge. So just as a point of validation. But you decided to do a little bit of a different restaurant than your parents had, and it's definitely more of a casual atmosphere. As you said, the building's like more of brick. There's definitely more of there's no white tablecloths, and it's, like you said, rustic plating, etc. What was the intention there?
I cook for people the way that I want to eat. And the fine dining experience to me it's not dead, and then it's in no way, shape, or form to try and categorize it like that, but the expectation of receiving like a really outstanding meal in a casual atmosphere, I think, is totally doable these days. You know, people are understanding that, hey, the quality of ingredient being used here is really great, so it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But when I go out to eat, I want things to be lively. I want it to be fun. I don't need the quiet of a room where, you know, you're clearing from the right, serving from the left, open hand, all the stuff that I used to do as a busboy with the tie on, sweating in that restaurant. You know, it's just not the way that I really choose to go out to eat, and so that's not really how I like to present to people. I want to say, hey, come in here, you know, wear a T-shirt, drink this bottle of rosé, and have like a way above average meal for, you know, the quality of space that you're in.
Yeah.
But how do you? Because I'm helping to train a team right now about service and all, but we're also trying to be casual. It's a brewery, but a great restaurant too. I still am trying to instill in the servers to understand that when appropriate or when applicable, serve on the left and remove from the right, and serve the drinks on the right, and, you know, try to follow that standard of fine dining if you have the choice. So I don't know, like, how do you handle it on the front of the house with your service team as far as standards of service, and do you ever have those type of articulations with the staff?
I don't necessarily know if it directs particularly at how they serve the table. I think for me, it's more of getting people to buy into a culture. Yeah. Service to me means everything. There's tons of restaurants with great food that don't have great service that I wouldn't go back to. You know what I'm saying? Or there's restaurants that have decent food, but I'll go in there and have like a truly memorable service experience, and that alone wants to bring me back to the restaurant because the food was heightened by the quality of the
Sure.
service, you know? And so I try and really emphasize to them, I'm like, man, there are restaurants that aren't doing great food that are still busy. Mm-hmm. And it's maybe because they have that server that, you know, that family comes to see every single Thursday because they know that person's working and they have that relationship. And that's, I mean, for me, food, and I think why maybe not always for the best reasons because it's such a hard industry, couldn't see myself doing anything else is because that's what food is to me. It's life. It's the familial relationship. It was those Sunday nights when my dad would be home and I was being cranky, but we sat at the dinner table and had a conversation type of thing. Eating.
Yeah.
You know, it was more than just the food in front of you and the sustenance. It was the experience.
Yeah. The point about service being uplifting the food, I think, is so important because it's often forgotten. And it's not about, I don't think, the standards of service, clearing from one side or the other, or delivering on one side or the other, but the when my water, if the server happens to notice that I'm drinking a lot of water and I'm parched, and that your water is constantly being filled up, or like Billy Mellon said this once of Manna out in Wilmington, that like he could hear a fork drop across the way, so like the fork's there before, or it's like if you know this person likes to have a bite of food and wine, and like you're make sure that wine glass is filled, and before they're finished, offer them another or pour it. Like those little things are just so important in the meal, regardless of where and what the atmosphere is.
And that's what we're constantly, I mean, my management team over there is really strong, but, I'm at that lineup saying, this makes a difference. It makes a difference to me. It makes a difference to our guests. And in the last year in particular, we keep getting people, I'll be at the farmer's market at like 6:45 in the morning, like barely eyes open, picking up all of our produce on Saturday morning, and somebody makes it a point to like pull me aside and be like, oh, I had such a great meal there, and this person was amazing. And so when somebody gets called out by name for the service that they're giving, that's an impact. It's a huge reward to me too, because it means that the team's like buying into it and sees the benefit of it. And when there's so many regular guests in that restaurant, it makes me smile so much to see them like, oh, where's Devin today, or where's Ben today? Are they off? They know the people's schedule. You know what I mean? And that to me is like, that's them having a connection with the restaurant that's more than just the food.
Well, but that's also super necessary if you're a restaurant in, say, Chapel Hill or Carborough or just a small town, is the point that I'm making, because you will only survive off of the local clientele. There's not enough tourism to keep any business like that afloat. And we would, Matt and I, when we were in Los Angeles at a restaurant, it was right next to the airport. It was maybe like 3 miles away from an airport. And we just constantly had international tourism in. So you would rarely see the same person. We'd have a nucleus of regulars, but the majority of our business were out-of-towners. Now, granted, you want to be great because when they leave, they go and start telling the whole world, hey, when you're in Los Angeles, go to this restaurant. And that's great. But you may never see the same person ever again. And so service-wise, you have to forge these long relationships with people. I think it just helps you be a really good person in general, because you have to learn to cope and deal and understand everyone on a little bit higher level than just it's going to be $5, sir, and then walk away.
And, when you see, like, we have some people that come in every Sunday to have, like, a late lunch. Like, I've watched their daughter grow up. Like, when she first started coming to the restaurant, she was less than a year old, and now she's going to be 3, and she always eats her pizza slice upside down.
That's awesome.
But it's those, to me, as somebody who maybe sees themselves having more than one business eventually and stuff like that, I hope that's something that I never kind of lose sight of, is that sort of connection. That it's always beyond food, and we really do strive for it over there, and I really give big ups to my service team for buying into that sort of a culture and consistently trying to deliver it.
However you eat your pizza slice, whether it be upside down like the little girl, or if you eat it folded like a New Yorker, you are making what's called a Neapolitan style pizza. So it's a brick-lined oven.
Yep.
So define exactly your style for us.
If you were to ask me what our pizza is, it's a Neapolitan stretch with more of a New York style cook.
Okay. And so that means like the chew is more New York style exactly, or the charring kind of thing?
Exactly. Okay. You're getting the Neapolitan is almost referring to that thin crust. and still having a really nice defined cornice. Like, pizza at the end of the day is bread with stuff on it.
Right. Yeah.
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 So if the base ingredient, which is the crust, is garbage, then there's no point to proceed. And so we're taking, when we were first developing, this is a recipe that I was working on in California. And, I came home and we had the shortest amount of time humanly possible before we opened that restaurant, because we managed to turn that building from nothing to a restaurant in 6 months, which, looking back, is ludicrous. And my mom and I tinkered with the recipe, adjusting hydration. She has a sourdough starter that's 31 years old, and I'm 30.
Oh.
And so,
Wow.
we were taking little bits of that and working into it and seeing how that was working, different flour types, stuff like that. And it really has developed what I think is a consistently rewarding experience. Our oven is made by Marsal & Son, which is up in Long Island.
Good place to have pizza ovens from.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Good place to be from in general.
Brick line deck ovens, and kind of what makes them unique is that their setup is a little bit, the burner setup is a little unique to them. I don't know if it's...
So it's electric, though?
It's gas.
It's gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, gas.
Right.
And we have...
And just to be 100% Neapolitan, you would have to have wood-fired, right?
Yeah, and people are like... Some guy ripped me on Yelp a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "This isn't Neapolitan pizza," and I was like, "I know, man. That's not what we're trying to do over here."
Right.
You should have looked shocked. You should have been like, what?
It's not. What have I been doing for 3 years?
We got to close.
But
That's it.
We took that oven and we tinkered with it a little bit, so it runs a lot hotter than a deck oven. Deck ovens are regulated to 650, but ours we're north of 725, 750, which I think is about as hot as
Horsepower.
Right.
Boys love fire.
Which means that it's a little bit of a longer cook also than a Neapolitan, right?
Significantly.
Yeah.
We're closer to 4 minutes instead of that 90 seconds or less, you
Right.
know? But what it gives me as far as a final product is I love when you can pick up a pizza, especially some of ours that are more heavily topped. We do one that's getting ready to come on. I'm going to shamelessly plug this.
Please.
During the summer, we do a marinated cherry tomato pizza. And so it's got a tomato base with some torn mozzarella and lots of fresh basil. And then we marinate all those crazy, we'll go through 10 to 12 flats of cherry tomatoes a week. And we just cut them and marinate them with crushed garlic and olive oil and basil. And when the pizza comes out of the oven, we put a pint almost of marinated cherry tomatoes on top
of that already? Nice.
Yeah, raw.
Nice.
And then finish it with some ricotta salata, that salted and pressed cheese. I picked that pizza up, and it's still like this. And it's got, 20 cherry tomatoes on it. And that's such a cool thing to me for it to be able to stand up to it.
Yeah.
There's an augmentation of bread flour in our dough, and that's what kind of helps give it that strength and a little bit more of that bready taste.
Can you break that down for me in lay terms? What does an augmentation of bread flour mean?
If true Neapolitan, 00 flour only.
Okay.
Water, salt, yeast.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If you're doing it real deal,
Sure.
you're going to get that
Hardcore,
DOC,
trying to get part of it. Yeah.
exactly. That's stop.
Okay.
But we do a little bit of bread flour in with our 00, and that helps build up the gluten, make it stronger. That in tune with, kind of our starter that's got a little bit of that residual sourdough flavor gives it more of a great bread back.
Yeah.
Which is really what I love. And the fact that when I get done, I don't sit down and eat a full pizza as much as I used to because the metabolism slows year by year. Mm-hmm. But I still love eating the crust, It's a rewarding, super crispy exterior, really good crunch. And then you break into it and it's soft and it's bready. And even the base crust, which is crazy thin, it's not a cracker.
Right.
It has a bite and then it gives way to a little bit of chew.
By the way, I want to not thank you for not bringing pizza in after all of this conversation. How dare you, sir?
Ovens are off on Monday, man. I gotta sleep.
That's a good point.
I just realized this, and of course, we were going to talk about this at some point, but I'm putting two and two together. It really, you are your parents' child, and really from a structural definition. Of course, the aforementioned Ben Barker, he's a chef. He's a notable chef. He's a savory chef. He cooks. He sautés. He does everything but the bake. But your mom, notable for being a pastry chef. In fact, 2003 outstanding pastry chef from James Beard Awards. That's a national level award folks, not regional, that she was the number one pastry chef in the nation. But it makes sense that now you doing what you do in the kitchen, you are cooking the way that your pops would have cooked and sauteing and doing all the things and knife work and all, but you're also utilizing this baking background that your mom had brought in. And you, like, literally, what would you do if your parents were equally amazing at these two separate things? Oh, I'll fuse them together and make the best pizza I could do, like make.
It really, and kind of one of the things that drew me to pizza was that perfect amalgamation. Is it takes the sense of urgency, that kind of fire, like you're on the line of savory cooking, but then you're baking at the same time, and it's an oven, and it requires muscle memory, understanding the piece of equipment that you're working on, timing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like set a timer when we put the pizza in the oven.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That comes from making like however many thousands and thousands.
It's innate now in you.
You know, I could put a pizza in the oven, go to the walk-in, grab something, come back, turn it.
There's
go
like an
wash my
alarm in your
hands.
head.
I mean, really though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it's been the point where, you know, I'll stop behind the bar to get some water or something like that, and somebody's talking to me, and I say, "Hey, I got to go real fast. I got to go pull this pie out." You know, and when I open the door, it's ready.
Ding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny, Matt, like what Gabe's explaining to me or us right now about, you know, the established Neapolitan pizza follows strict rules, right? Like these DOC rules, I believe, not uncommon to wine rules, right? And what you and I
It's
have
like
noticed,
an IGT pizza.
yeah, but and what you know, like, yeah, what Matt's kind of referring to is like wines that are like they fall outside of the
Appellation.
the appellation, the standards, the rules. But wine now, we know so many great winemakers that are younger now, that are like the newer generation, that are, for in many ways, kind of breaking new ground by breaking the rules and not following like the way you're supposed to do it. And a lot of times you're like, I kind of like this even more than like the way
Right.
all
Than
my
the-
great grandfathers told us you got to put this much percentage of this and age for this. And I guess that's like a consummation, or that's where we're at now. Like, we know what the rules are, and now we're intentionally breaking them to do something, to forge new ground.
Yeah.
Good is good, right?
Yeah.
And
If it's good, it's good, and it doesn't have to follow the rules to be good.
it's,
I love
yeah,
it.
that's right. But I am glad you mentioned wine, because shameless plug, Triangle Wine Company helps us keep the lights on here. And you can find a lot of those IGT wines. You can find classic
DOC?
wines,
DOCG?
DOC wine, DOCG wines, AOC wines,
AOP.
all of them. AOP wines, that's right. At Triangle Wine Company. And good is good and breaking new ground. They just broke ground in Holly Springs, their fourth location. So they have Holly Springs, they have Pinehurst, Southern Pines. They have Cary, and they have Morrisville. You can also find them online at trianglewineco.com and use the NCFB promo code to receive a discount.
So we brought up your mom earlier, and it's funny, Matt and I actually discussed this, full transparency, before you came in. We want to talk about your mom, Karen Barker. She passed this year, and she has been a legend in this industry. She was, you know, a partner with your father making Magnolia Grill, just such an amazing impact, doing the pastry program, the baking, but also being a nurturing mother and raising a son. And, well, you also have another brother
I
as
have
well.
a brother too, yeah.
Whatever. He's not on the microphone. We're not talking about him, but I'm sure he's a fine person. But raising a family in addition to running an amazing restaurant. And then at one point, because we had spoken to your father on a previous episode, it was like they both said, we're done. Like, we've done this. It's time to just kind of focus on family, our own lives, and do that. And then of course, you open up a place. Your parents were really kind of excited, like, hey, we'll help you get this thing going. And then, you know, Pizzeria Mercado comes in, and your mom played a very impactful part in your life. So I just thought it was important that we acknowledge your mom, and I'd love to know how you took influence from your mom and utilize it in your work today.
You know, she was one of the kindest, sweetest, most patient human beings I've ever known. As a perfect example, a guy that does all of my pastry at Mercado came in, and he was doing construction before he started working for us. And his wife worked at Southern Season, where we've taught classes, and she said, hey, my husband doesn't want to do construction anymore. Like, do you think you might have a position for him? thinking it would be savory cooking. He had worked at like Top of the Hill or something like that back in the day. And I said, Mom, you think you could teach him how to bake? And so my mom didn't speak Spanish, and this guy does not speak English. And she turned him into a really, really good pastry cook. Like, he does our pizza dough, he does our bread, he does all the ice cream, he does all the cakes.
Wow.
And I mean, these are still her recipes we're working off of. And I could see there'd be days where she'd want to bang her head against the wall, but she would do it around the corner where nobody could see it, There was a attention to detail, a level of organization, just a genuine compassion, and kind of something that she really helped instill in me is that, you do this because you love it, but you do it because you want to see other people love it and be able to enjoy it. And it's definitely the hardest thing that I've had to experience in my life, by far and away, like no questions asked. And especially when you, like me, I'm in my restaurant every day. You know what I'm saying? I'm in there working with my team, and part of what I think makes a great leader is the attitude. It's so infectious in a kitchen more than a lot of other places because you work so closely. It's high stress, it's long hours, it's all the yada that comes with working in a restaurant. And she always kept a smile on her face.
Yeah. I know she's sorely missed around these parts and probably nationally, but the nice thing, as you've said, is her legacy lives on through the pastry and your dessert program at Mercado, because it's like we talked about, it's not your average dessert menu at a pizza place. There's some serious highbrow desserts, and the sourdough starter is there making the pizza crust every day.
Our dessert program is like, it's so simple. But what I really think helped set her apart was that pursuit of perfection. If, like, we got a cannoli. I told her, I said, we have to have cannoli on the menu. We have to. This isn't a question, right? What I'm saying? And she's from Brooklyn, and so that's like,
that's
big
cannoli
chops,
central.
You know how you know someone's from Brooklyn, right? They tell you the second you meet them.
Exactly.
You use that line for so many different things. It's like,
also, I rescued a dog.
Yeah.
Who rescued who? I drive a Prius. I do CrossFit. Yeah, that's all that's it.
And so, the fact that we were able to like take that and iron it out, and I'll tell you, one of the only times that she's come to me and said, "Hey, try this," and I said, "That's not right," was working on that cannoli.
Oh,
yeah, I was scared. People are intimidated by my dad sometimes because he's just kind of a very you can see the intent in his eyes. He's got kind of like that strong demeanor to him.
Yeah.
But I was way more scared of my mom, significantly. And she brought me that cannoli filling, and I was like, I think it's too sweet. And she's like, are you sure? And I was like, I think it's too sweet. And so, being able to even take the time to maybe contribute something to her thought process, it was a really pretty special experience.
So at home, she was the enforcer? She was bad cop?
My dad was always working.
And
funny anecdote about your father was in the anticipation of doing the podcast with him, we had exchanged some emails. So naturally, Facebook connects that I know your father because of this, and he pops up in my feed as someone you should be friend with. And I went, yeah, sure, why not? So I clicked. He and I had never met in person at this point, just via email. So when I see him in person, he had yet to accept my friendship at this point, and I see him in person, and I say something. It was like before we got on the cameras, or on the cameras. Actually, we had cameras. We said something about Facebook. He's like, yeah, you sent me a friend request on Facebook. And I go, yeah, I did. He's like, why would you do that? We don't know each other. And I went, you're right. Yeah, you're right. He's like, I thought we were supposed to be friends before we become Facebook friends.
They were never huge technology people.
Right.
And still to this day, social media is not like my 83-year-old grandmother is, waving at me on Facebook before my dad is.
I'll just say he's right, though. Like, I don't want people who I've literally never met in person. I mean, it's different when you have like a very intimate sort of relationship via email or working or something like that. But if I don't know you and I've never met you, why are you friend requesting me on Facebook? I feel the same way.
I disagree. I think
I
we're
know
all in
you
an
disagree.
industry.
You like to be friends with everybody. You're
No,
like the
but-
Facebook whore.
It's not that. It's that, gosh, Matt, your language. No, it's that I want to see what so-and-so is doing in this industry, like Chef Greg Collier out in Charlotte. I've never officially met him, but I totally respect what he does. I've yet to have his food, but I know many people love what he does. And now he and I have conversed many times on Facebook that I would consider him a friend. Never shook his hand. I've never seen him in person, but he's a cool dude, and I see the stuff he's coming up with, and I listen to the thoughts that he has, that he shares, his comments. I'm like, yeah, I like that guy. So when I do eventually meet him, I'll be like, what's up,
We're already friends.
Yeah,
you know?
we established.
No, I think it's just social media in this day and age. It connects people.
Sure.
And regardless of whether or not you've actually had I'm more of a face-to-face type of individual.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of social media. If it weren't for the business, I probably wouldn't be on Instagram very much. But, I'm like our Instagram human, like every other person of my age that's, taking pictures instead of talking to the person across from them at the table.
Yeah.
But I understand the importance of it. It's just not, I don't really have the time to do it. I have a family member who I don't know what she does with her time because she's just like always posting stuff on Facebook.
That's what she does.
And I'm just like, you do have a job, right? Because
Yeah, well, you can get a job. You can do that for a
Yeah,
living. So,
you
you know,
can.
that is a thing.
I guess I'm just of the opinion that like some social networks are for literally social and some are more business oriented, I think. And you can make those connections then. But that's my personal opinion.
Let's talk about professional stuff. You said something earlier, and I like asking chefs a couple of technical questions about what they do. And we got into Octopus for a second. I want to know something. Friend of the show, friend of mine, Facebook friend of mine too, and yours, Matt, Regan Stockler. He's a chef. We had this great
guy. I'm gonna shamelessly plug that one.
Yeah, right? He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And Dawn, his wife, his two lovely kids. They're all great. So we interviewed him at Lambstock 2 years ago, and I accidentally deleted that file that we had. It somehow just didn't make it. I don't know what happened. We had like the computer jammed or something. I don't know, whatever it is. But what he said was how he treats Octopus, and it was a really insightful method. And I'll give you just the 10-cent story of it, and I would love for you to tell us a little bit how you treat Octopus. He was saying 2 ways of making octopus, either really short or really long. There's no in between. Yep. You can just do quick like ceviche, some acid, maybe a little heat, or then you've got to stew that thing for a while to just loosen up all the fibers and the tendons and all that so that it can become less chewy. So how do you make your pulpo?
Well, I think base ingredient, as if with everything, is most important. You know, we use Spanish octopus. You can get it from the Philippines, yada, yada, yada. Each octopus is different. We did Farm to Fork last year out at Farrington, and we did like this salad that I was super excited about. It was like easy for us to execute. It was almost like our take on Mexican ceviche with octopus and cucumbers, and it was like delicious. Like, tomato, jalapeno, fish sauce, red onions, crispy cold cucumbers. I was like, man, we home run this one.
Yeah,
and then
sounds
half the
pretty
people
awesome.
there would say, oh, well, I can't eat that because they're super smart, and they are. Octopus is one of the most sentient beings in the world outside of human. They're inherently extremely intelligent.
Maybe smarter than some of humans, yeah.
I mean, shit, I won't go from there, but I can name a couple. But I think stress makes a difference because every once in a while we get one in, and no matter what I do to it, our normal procedure, and it just doesn't come out as tender as the other ones. And so I think maybe when they're caught, maybe like some guys like slapping it against the boat or something like that.
Right.
I don't know when they're doing away with it, but we do a poach on ours. Lots of aromatics in there. And we do take our time with it. Then we do a marinade on it, and then we grill it.
Poach, marinade, grill.
Dude, that's the thing about Mercado is that plate in front of you.
Yeah,
there's so much labor goes into our food, and
But how long do you poach?
well, that's the secret, man.
Okay, you can't tell us.
But you take some time to soften it up.
And there's no timer. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's just when it's ready.
It's when it's ready. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that I've always appreciated. Coming from a background where I have no formal culinary education, it was like I shipped myself out to California and just started working.
Yeah.
And read. I put my head in a book and I wrote stuff down. And so There's no sous vide machine at
I
Mercado.
would challenge that you have some formal background in that you grew up, and there are pictures of you that are boasted very proudly in the bathroom of Mercado, sitting on, as a little boy, sitting on the tables.
Me and that block of cream cheese.
You and the cream cheese sitting in Magnolia. Like, I think about it when you talk about if you are officially, or, you are trained, formally trained by anyone. It doesn't matter whatever skill set you're in the end, you are either just hearing it from someone that knows a lot, that has wisdom in that field, and or reading it out of a book that someone wrote that has a lot of wisdom. What I would argue that your upbringing, you basically were at school for the culinary arts every day. You talk to your family.
I think what I had, and to this day, I'm, admittedly I'm not changing the world of cooking. Like, and I'll say that to my staff. But what I did get from my dad in particular is my palate. Like, my palate is trained and has been trained since I was a young kid.
Yeah.
Bright, punchy, seasoned, acidic flavors. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything, if I hit it, acid is like my base point. If you come to eat there, you were there recently, like, everything's got some acid in it. It keeps the food interesting to eat. I love classic French food. But if I'm halfway through a plate and, like, my mouth is so covered with butter and fat that I can't really taste the other ingredients that I'm eating, it becomes boring. And so, like...
Your palate fatigue.
Yeah, exactly. And I am to the point where I now asking some of my sous chef and one of my other guys, I'm like, is this too bright? I quit smoking back at the beginning of the year, and so my palate has changed.
I bet it opened up a lot, too.
Yeah, and... to be able to taste stuff now and taste things differently, I'm like, dude, you're putting so much lemon and vinegar in this food right now. But it continues to stay vibrant and bright, and from the first bite to the last bite, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we go for. And I really think that that's what my dad gave me, was the ability to taste food and say, oh, it wants more of this. Oh, it wants less of that. I kind of have my breakdown when I talk to my sous chef, who gets a lot of input on menu creation, and we're always talking about texture. We're always talking about contrast. We're always talking about acid. Like, those are our three things. So in every single piece of food that comes up in that menu, those are the three things that I insist that we hit on. Because if you hit on all three of those things, then you're at least going to create a dish that has balance. And that's, at the end of the day, what you're looking for.
Just like wine. Wait, so... a lot of people are listening and they're wondering what's the secret to, because a lot of people in this area have young children, to give your kids a dynamic palate.
Well, you guys both have kids, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You just had a baby, right?
Yeah. Second.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, he had it. He did a lot of work.
I did a lot. Yeah. My wife was the star, yeah.
My parents always made me try stuff.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to be judgmental here, but, like, make your kid eat. They don't have, like, we had somebody come in the other day who...
Have you met my daughter Charlotte yet?
You should bring her to Mercado.
Oh, yeah. But she would just want, what she eats in a color wheel of white to beige.
So here's my question to you. Does she have any dietary restrictions?
No.
So who pays the bills? Do you do? You say... just try it. And that's what they always said. They said, if just try it, and if you don't like it, you don't have to eat anymore.
Yeah.
And
we say that. Still, I don't know the next step after, other than, like, we've had moments where I almost wanted to shove that whatever octopus or something in her face, but I'm not going to do that. But yeah,
I think sometimes there's too much of a choice given, and not as much of, like, hey, you hungry? You should probably eat this because there's no other food.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm going to go into the kitchen and eat a bowl of cereal.
I think Charlotte would probably go hungry. But what I think, if I may, I think apparently what I'm learning as being a dad now to a toddler is it's all about choice. Yep. So you do give a choice, but you just give, basically you're controlling the choice. So you can either taste this octopus or you can taste this piece of ceviche or shrimp. Yeah, you choose. Yeah. And then you get them to taste different things.
Incentivize with dessert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's the goal.
That might help too.
Yeah.
Kids lessons here on the NC F&B pod.
Wait, am I on the Holderness podcast right now?
Right, seriously.
No. All right. One more question. Matt's probably got a couple, and I keep jumping in, but I do want to say, you said earlier today on the podcast that you may open other businesses in the future, and we just kind of let that sweep right under the rug, but I'm pulling it right back out.
Yeah.
I want to know two things. One, what place would you want to open in general? And two, because it might not be the same answer, what's next?
What's next is
Arms up.
Yeah.
It's a podcast. No one can see what you just did.
Can I just throw
He
my
shrugged
hat
his
in the
shoulders.
ring and
You-
say Taco Mercado? Because I've heard that
You
thrown
know,
about, bantied about.
I think that one has been tabled. There's a lot of competition. Carborough in Chapel Hill has a wealth of taco trucks that do a pretty good job, and we got another local guy that's getting ready to open a place in conjunction with another restaurant owner, and so I'm not sure. You know, I miss food from California. Like truly, I do.
too.
And I think about the things that I miss, and it's mostly like Latino-inspired cooking and like Southeast Asian-inspired cooking. Those are the two ones that.
That's the Bay Area.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Area. And so I really do miss those things, and that's what I crave to eat. And it's, you know, I drive 50 minutes to come eat at Beatamonda because that's how
I was
much
just going to say Southeast Asian. You got it there, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my two favorite restaurants in the Triangle are both in Raleigh, so that's why, I mean, I drive to Raleigh, man. I just wait until the rush hour traffic's done.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I love Thai food. I love spice. I love lime, fish sauce, like that kind of umami, funky, bright, spicy. You know, we made some awesome, like I had some leftover Calabrian sausage that we had used on a pizza and made this really like fun Calabrian chili lob the other day for a staff meal. And I was like, man, this is good.
Yeah. Damn, I can cook.
Yeah, well, so, but what's next? Who knows? I think part of something
Is that, but that is something that would be something that you would like to do, is open a second.
I mean, I've kind of settled down roots in Carborough. Like, I think that Durham's got such a great restaurant scene, Raleigh's got such a great restaurant scene, and in Chapel Hill for a long time, I could never understand. It's like you always had Lantern, you always had Crooks, and there's new places opening up. You know, Brendan from Oakleaf moved to town. Kevin's been at Acme for a long time, crushing it over there, and it kind of feels like the final frontier because it's the last part of the triangle before you head out towards Greensboro. And so when people are like, "Oh, we drove from like North Raleigh to come eat dinner with you," I'm like, "Thank you, thank you," because you know I make that drive to go eat because that's like those are the places I want to go to.
The people that I dined with at Mercado recently come from Wake Forest almost once a week to go eat there.
I mean, where are they? I'll kiss them on the mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's the biggest compliment, man. If somebody's willing to make that sort of a commute because they think what you're doing is worth that sort of a drive, that's everything to me. And so I would love to have other places. I want to have restaurants where I want to eat. And I think I said that earlier. It's like I cook what I want to eat. And so I would love to have other places, but I also have a business that is still in business.
Yeah.
And like in this day and age, that is so hard in the restaurant industry. I mean, there's so many factors that cause these places to close down. And so I'm also trying to never forget what home base is.
Yeah,
you know?
don't take your eye off the ball on that one.
Because, I mean, if anything, and something that my dad kind of really hammered into me is like, I feel like in this day and age, the industry makes you feel like you're not successful as a chef restaurateur if you don't have 5 or 6 of them. You know, they're like, "Oh, you only own one restaurant?" I'm like, man, what are you talking about? Like, this place is, we're doing great, and it's 3 years old, and we've gotten all this, like, my team's gotten so much recognition in that time because we're really paying attention to what we're doing, and so there is definitely the potential. I would never rush into it because I want to continue to have Mercado stand out, and I want to continue to, every day we walk in the doors, like finding people who care obsessively the way that I do. Like I've got like my sous chef who's been with me from day one. She's got like all the skills that she needs to be that type of person, and so to like try and foster that and grow it and say like, hey, I never had that mentor. You know, I never had the chef to push me to the point where I'm at right now. And so, and one thing that I've forever respected about my parents is the amount of people that they set up for success. Like, you know, the News and Observer.
The Ben Barker tree is large.
And my mom's.
And
you
your,
know,
and Ben and Karen Barker.
People who worked for them for a while they came out ready to open their own business. You know what I mean? Because there was that sort of level of dedication, attention to detail, organization, all of the things that make a restaurant great from the kitchen side. Like they instilled it in people, and to see how successful people have come out of that kitchen to be, that to me it could be potentially one of the greatest rewards, 10, 15 years down the line, is that I want to know that I've helped people. Like my dream is fulfilled. How many people at 30 years old get to own and operate their own restaurant? You know what I'm saying? And get to call the shots. Nobody tells me how to run my business. Nobody tells me what I can and can't put on my menu. And so to be able to do that is like, it's a blessing, man. It truly is. And a lot of people never get the opportunity. And so like, as far as wanting to do something else, trust me, the thought is there. Like I lose sleep overthinking. I see something close and I see the, for sale sign go up and I'm like, chomping at the bits, but then I'm also like, all right, we got to make sure that what we're doing at this extremely young business continues to be like way above average,
Yeah. I don't think anything else needs to be said for today.
No, that was a perfect way. So for anybody that's interested in having some of the best food in addition to pizza that you can find in the Triangle or even North Carolina, you got to go to Pizzeria Mercado. And when you go there, especially if you drove a long distance, you're going to get a kiss on the lips from Chef Gabe Barker.
That's right.
Oh.
But one thing we do have to do before we get out of here.
Yeah. Sorry, one sec. Let me just edit this. Yeah, but before we get out of here, Gabe, I know that you're used to having really great sweets and desserts and all, both fashioned by your mother, but then also by your new pastry chef that was taught by your mom. But we here at the NC F&B always like to send someone home with a nice sweet bite, and our friends at Bestow Baked Goods provided us with a beautiful baked cake that our lovely Keely is bringing in right now.
Oh, dang.
And so this is for you. And
Awesome.
So Bestow Baked Goods, they are currently in Fuquay Varina, but they are opening up their new shop in Matt's neck of the woods in Holly Springs, and right next door to our other great sponsor, Triangle Wine Company. So that is for you to share with your team or just mow it down on the ride back on the train,
The ride back on the train, yeah.
Yeah. You and Bill Smith should be riding trains together.
Yeah,
since you're
it's certainly true.
Yeah. But go check them out. Go to bestowbakedgoods.com or check them out
Thank you,
at
guys.
Bestow Baked Goods on Instagram. Big shout out to Kyle and Heather
Sutton. Yeah, so thank you so much for being in here.
Thank you, guys.
And everybody, like Max said, go to Pizzeria Mercado. You will eat and drink extremely merrily.
Thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. By rating us online, you're helping others to discover our show. The magic of SEO puts the Rockefeller on our oyster. Follow us on all platforms at NCFB Pod.